Hey guys, welcome back to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be watching the 2024 body horror movie, The Substance. This is an American film by a French director, Coralie Fargeat. Some of you may know Fargeat from her 2017 debut, Revenge. I've heard lots of great stuff about The Substance. There's been so much in terms of its reception at Cannes, comeback performance by Demi Moore, great performance by Margaret Qualley, and much acclaim for its director. And audiences have been similarly very receptive, very excited about this movie. I just realized something. This will be in reference to something I'll say later. I record these intros at the end of at the end of the viewing session sometimes. So, but I'm realizing now this is also a connection to Pulp Fiction, that similarly Fargeat has written a role, conceived a role as a platform for a great comeback performance by an actress, in this case Demi Moore, whereas in Pulp Fiction Tarantino obviously used that to kind of springboard John Travolta's career. Okay, that's another connection to Pulp Fiction. There will be more of those sprinkled along in the movie. But yeah, sounds exciting. More likely than not, some of you have probably watched this film before I have. I just wanted to get the experience in video form. I'm going to go through this, get my thoughts out on it, talk about some things that I see and observe, perhaps some movies, Pulp Fiction including, that this movie might be channeling either blatantly or sometimes subtly. So yeah, without further ado, let's watch The Substance. An interesting opening about construction. We see the end result, the Hollywood star, the icon, but this is about kind of the grout work, the artifice behind it, the implementation behind it. And I like the use of the ketchup to kind of mimic the idea of blood that may pervade in this movie.
You got it!
You can get your knees up higher.
Come on! Happy birthday! Oh, thank you.
It's weird that she wouldn't have an assistant.
Oh, thank you.
Evoking kind of The Shining. Yeah, obvious Shining reference.
Find me somebody new. Now.
Man, those wide-angle lenses go crazy. I'm gonna pause for a second. Okay, just two things I want to bring up. One, the women's restroom being out of order, I think is a slight nod to the kind of feelings of aging and bodily decomposition within social terms, within societal terms, that Demi Moore's characters, that Elizabeth is feeling. But also, I think that the Shining reference is more than just aesthetic. I mean, obviously it seems like Coralie Fargeat likes The Shining, but I think it also tunes into the idea of doubles, because The Shining is a lot about kind of like a darker half, or a kind of nemesis that inhabits us, that is within us. And I think that may be something that is brought out in The Substance. This scene in particular in the bathroom is the scene where Brady tells Jack Torrance that he's always been the caretaker here, that there's another version of Jack Torrance who has always been here, just as there's always been a Brady who's working there who had to correct his children and his wife and so on. So I think this set and this homage is also channeling that those themes from the 1980 movie. I'm still surprised she doesn't have an assistant, but I'm sure it's for movie convenience.
Oh! I'm sorry, I gotta run. Harvey!
Don't name him Harvey. That kind of obvious French humor. Why do they always gotta point out the modernist architecture? A little pamphlet. Come see us if you want a new future. If you want to relive your past.
Come with me if you want to live.
You know why this is using the wide-angle lenses? I'm realizing this now. This is also referencing Seconds. That's funny. I've never seen Seconds, or I've only seen part of Seconds, but it's this wonderful 1966-67 film directed by John Frankenheimer and lensed by...
Fred from 10th grade homeroom.
by
Fred.
James Wong Howe, and it's about pausing for a second, pausing in 3, 2, 1, and it's about this this man who is taken into this conspiracy where basically they take older men and fashion them, give them cosmetic surgery to make them new and give them a new life and such, and him kind of like, it stars Rock Hudson, and it's him like kind of navigating the nightmare of that, like the idealized American dream and idealized American man, and how much of a facade it is, and what goes into the construction and manipulation and intentional like creation of these kind of archetypes, these men of substance in the American 50s and 60s, and the kind of how the sausage gets made in this kind of conspiratorial air.
Don't look at my cholesterol levels, they're a disaster.
There's so much health stuff going on in this. Do not just plug in a random USB into your computer. You are a celebrity. They are going to take all of your
Have you ever dreamt of a better version
sex
of
tapes.
yourself?
The one.
You can't escape from yourself.
Is she going to try and sew herself to her clone at the end of this? I've heard some things about the ending being very gruesome. An Independent Spirit Award. Okay.
I'd like to order 35 North.
I like that she also wrote it on her skin. It's like a movie cliche or trope, but it returns us to a sense of the tactile, that this is going to be a part of her body, a part of her process, her autonomy, her corporeal reality. Kind of like George Lucas-y, early Cronenberg, maybe? Well, I don't know. Like early Cronenberg, like Crimes of the Future Cronenberg. But that was like a matter of convenience. He had that location, like that college, I think, in Ontario that he could shoot at. So part of me is actually wondering if this is going to be a like queer narrative or a lesbian narrative, because it's tying in the idea of tying in multiple ideas of like self-love and progenation, self-production, reproduction, and it's tying into the idea of her like giving birth to something, so to speak. Arguably giving birth to like the better part of her, the younger part of her, but maybe also giving birth to like the worst parts of her, oppositely, manifesting her own like fears of getting old, her own fears of being infertile or not reproducing.
Everything comes from you.
But in some ways,
a better version of yourself.
and that's presenting like a horror movie kind of narrative about it, and it's like a condemnation of those like impulses we feel and the social structures that create them. But there's a part of it that's like it feels very what's the term called, that like Tumblr thing, like self-cessed and shit, the onceler, that's it. The idea of like an infinite energy machine, like an infinitely self-sustaining feminine lesbian utopia where men are not a product of this anymore, and if there weren't men involved in the social structures, then the substance would actually be an ideal, a means of self-reproduction, of self-love, and self-preservation that isn't tied to systems or hierarchies or sexism. So while this may be presented as a horror movie within the context of like Hollywood and glamour and the need to constantly be young, constantly be socially visible, constantly be relevant, it may also be presenting like kind of like, in some ways, a queer fantasy. Still, all of this without an assistant. This is kind of like similar imagery as like Alien, the idea of like, again, the idea of kind of an unnatural pregnancy chest burster. Oh, that's beautiful. An immaculate heart. So is she gonna Tootsie? Is she gonna pretend be the person who replaces herself? She's gonna go into the casting call pretending to be a woman who's gonna replace Elizabeth Marvel, but she actually is Elizabeth Marvel. This is fun. It's just two ladies hanging out. I wonder if she's gonna try and make a double out of the double, since the tagline of the substance company is remember you are one. Again, like Alien, like The Exorcist, a little bit of proboscis horror, a little bit of injection impregnation horror. And this is just a color scheme thing. Obviously, young Elizabeth Marvel is wearing opposite color.
Sure is in the right place.
Everything's where they need to be. She's wearing the opposite color scheme to adult Elizabeth Marvel, or older Elizabeth Marvel. Marvel wears her trademark yellow. Older Marvel wears her trademark yellow, and younger Marvel's wearing purple, violet. A direct contrast.
I'm Sue.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Pure heart. People are gonna love that.
People might think this is like a weird turn for Dennis Quaid. Not that I've seen every Dennis Quaid movie, but the most recent Dennis Quaid movie I watched was a TV movie from like 1979 called "Are You Alone in the House?" and he plays a rapist in that movie. So I've recently seen this side of Dennis Quaid's performance. It's so French. It's got such a music video editing style to it. You can tell this was made by somebody who grew up listening to Daft Punk. Just a couple of gals hanging out. I need less of this behind the back shot. I do understand perhaps that it's in reference to seconds, but and it is kind of like giving a sense of like this monotony, this humdrum of her going through the same day or the same motions over and over again, despite the glamour of her life. But it is still a bit repetitious. Would they notice that her like billing address is the same as Elizabeth Marvel's? Sparkles, sorry. And still, all of this without an assistant. God, this is kind of like, this is the Martin Scorsese tension. Like, when you show like the sinful side, the bad side, it's just always so much more appealing on screen than the like sad or repentant or moral side.
And in the meantime,
Keep pumping.
take care of yourself.
Oh, take care of yourselves. Yes, the theme, the morals of the movie.
Don't eat too fast.
And a nice mix of metaphors, like the idea that Sue's going to go out on her own. It's kind of like a rebellious teenager phase, but also the idea of her encouraging Elizabeth not to eat too fast. This idea of like self-regulation, of moderance, of temperance, that is not only expressed in that is being expressed in like from the female side, that women have to like moderate the amount that they consume, but also like the idea of like the contrast of the old and like parsimonious and like and shrewd, like slowly wasting away trying to conserve stuff to be hungrily consumed by the young and the new. I do like this closet metaphor, the idea of trying to lock away, trying to subsume your darker half, your ugly half, and not let it see the light of day. I think it layers a more material about like addiction into this, that it's not just about youth conceptually or social standards. It's also about this internal psychological process that we have regarding our own addictions to social performance. Yeah, we already saw it in Dogs Don't Wear Pants. And it's a picture of Dorian Gray thing going on too. Great, that's a great development. A lot of references to this. A lot of references.
Yes.
A lot of different. It's integrating a lot of different frameworks together. Hey, aren't you Elizabeth I keep saying Elizabeth Marvel. Sorry, Elizabeth Sparkle. Yeah, see what I mean about that kind of like maybe a little bit of a queer aspect to this. Not necessarily intentional on the part of the filmmakers, or perhaps it is. But I think you're bound to run into some aspect of this in this sort of Narcissus storyline. Picture of Dorian Gray, the adulation of your own form, your own beauty. Yeah, you missed too many dates worrying about makeup, worrying about how presentable you are to the world. This isn't just like a female experience. I have this worry too. Like in terms of social anxiety and stuff, sometimes you feel like you're just not presentable when given like new circumstances or challenges to like go out into the world. And so there's been like lots of like parties or events that I've like just kind of generally canceled on or vague canceled on. Not based on a lack of interest in going, but in not knowing how to leave the house. Yes, Joker Elizabeth. In Elizabeth's case, she's like unable to live up to this standard, this other version of herself that's existing every other week. This socially constructed version of herself, basically. Yeah, I've had similar experiences. I'm sure you've had similar experiences at some point in your life of feeling you can't leave the house because you can't live up to a standard. I think so far, within the scope of the movie, that's been the moment I've related to the most. Yeah, this is what happens when you get roommates. It also kind of mirrors kind of a passive-aggressive relationship that roommates or families might have, where they literally can't speak to each other because, you know, they alternate weeks and stuff, and so they manifest their relationship through passive aggression, like roommates leaving plates out and stuff, leaving food out.
We started at 42. Now
42?
216.
It's phenomenal!
Those ratings don't make sense. That's a huge share. And again, overlapping the addiction kind of narrative to this as well. The picture of Dorian Gray. Wiggle. This is her Kill Bill moment.
Wiggle your big toe.
She said that she was influenced by Kill Bill for... what's it called? For revenge. This is her wiggle your big toe moment. Why would you put up a billboard that says tomorrow? Nice little diction narrative for a Hollywood starlet. It's better than Blonde. I'll give it that.
Stressed out about tomorrow?
Another little Shining reference. I should have seen this coming. The woman in room 237. Your references are have come shining on through. Oh, this is more than the witch, in my opinion. Not the witch, the witches. And another shining shot. Very nice, very nice. Oh God! Why did they do that to her? Oh no! This is the real body horror for me. Stunt work.
Are you sure? On your...
Yes, and this too is also a Pulp Fiction reference, but it's seeing kind of like the end of an addiction narrative running its course. It's weird, the little references in this movie. I really wasn't expecting it. In a wide range too. Well, not that wide, but yeah, seeing like The Shining and Seconds and like Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill reference within the same movie and have it feel still cohesive to a certain degree, it's cool. And the picture of Dorian Gray, I guess. Yeah, roommates are hard. Even with the little Mia Wallace blood drippings from her nose. Oh, love that. That's a little bit of the revenge fight choreography coming back into this. Wendy? I swear I bet Wendy, I hurt my head real bad.
I think you hurt my head real bad.
I guess we're doing an irreversible. How hard is that mirror? The revenge coming back out. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that in my bones. The beating up of your own self, the most damaged, the most vulnerable part of yourself, the part that you don't want to show society. I really do get that.
There you go.
Just an itty bitty toothy. Yeah, don't touch it. Oh, we're gonna do a Society of the Snow? Nowhere near as bad as Society of the Snow. Oh, I hated that shot in Society of the Snow because it was just so loose. It was just so loose. Smile, though your heart is breaking.
Of a better version of yourself.
Yeah, this is what I was anticipating would happen.
Perfect.
These sort of narratives end up turning into an infinite regression. How's she gonna get another, a package? I knew we were gonna get dogs don't wear pants. It's a nice pedicure too. It's a shame. Again, I think all these troubles would have been alleviated by an assistant. Yeah, that's what happens, I guess. Looks like a thing. Like the 2011 version of the thing. All these mirror spots. Oh, cool. At least she's back. Alicia Sue. Just another day in Hollywood. Vertigo? God. Okay, one too many references. Would you consider Vertigo like a? I mean, it is like a movie about imagery, about whatever that process is called with butterflies. But I wouldn't consider it a Hollywood movie. It's set in San Francisco. But yes, trying to create the simulacra of beauty. The infinitely replicating, even when using live bodies to replace dead bodies. Yeah, I guess that does tie into Vertigo. At last. We gotta stop using this song ironically. It actually has an emotional punch to it.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you call me Joker? What is this musical cue? This is also Vertigo? I'm sure there's an argument to be made that this wouldn't be possible. There would be too many whatevers that would prevent her from coming on stage and doing whatever. But I think we're meant to see this from not a 2001 reference. We're meant to see this from the perspective of the all-seeing eye. That this is the creation of this lens, of this aperture that American society or Hollywood or our cultural values have in presenting monsters on screen. And so by the demand of that god that we worship, this thing must show itself on screen, on stage and on screen. I do like that she's wearing the Cinderella dress. Another pregnancy is just going to keep infinitely duplicating and just fill the theater and crush them all to death, like The Thing, or not The Thing, The Blob. Akira too, Akira reference. Tetsuo Kaneda. A little bit of Carrie too. I'm getting to the point a little bit where I'm getting a bit fatigued by how many things this could be a reference to. Maybe that's just my own interpretation. Yeah, I think like the screen, I'm perhaps a bit oversaturated with references at this point. I think references are good and shit and whatever, but you have to have I don't know, for the conclusion of your narrative, yeah, it has to stand on its own merit. And this is, I think, to a general audience, I think it would be. I just think it's, the argument that people have for Hamlet, that you shouldn't bring up a character in the fifth act. This is you shouldn't offer up another reference within the last 10-20 minutes of a movie, unless you have a supporting base to it. I could abide the 2001 one a little bit because it has been kind of set up by the lens of the camera shooting her, and another Shining reference. We were okay with that one. And scanners, yes. It's a little too far at this point. She's gonna say something like, "I'll be back." It's gonna be a Sunset Boulevard ending. Always depended on the kindness of strangers. Yeah, and so set up earlier with the hamburger and the ketchup. Wipe away a little viscera. It's good as new. Ready for another day. I did. That was fun. I think Fargeat. I think the ending a little bit set in a bit of fatigue for me, where it had to be an explosive ending, it had to be a surreal ending, and I had the same issue with Love Lies Bleeding, where in concept I like the idea of having an explosive ending, But I actually think in both films, like the framework, the substantive part of the movie that led up to that was actually more engaging and more developed and more concrete. And there were things that were being observed, or that were being kind of analyzed, or that were being expressed, that are of a separate tone or a separate level of insight than what the ending provides. I think that's like kind of an issue with like Tarantino films at times too. Obviously Fargeat gets a little bit of inspiration from Tarantino, so I could see her carrying that DNA a little bit in her movies, but sometimes Tarantino movies with their like explosive endings and stuff, like they feel like a different movie with intention. It's like, this is the history of the world as it goes one way, and then we'll explore it if it goes the other way. And I think for some movies it's better suited, or like the setup and the payoff are more evenly balanced than others. I think like for instance Django Unchained really has some really interesting aspects to its setup and what it wants to observe, but then the payoff is so explosive and so cathartic and so whatever that it kind of completely overshadows the narrative and kind of diminishes it, makes it less important and less substantive, because we get the explosion, we get the payoff, we get things blowing up at the end, and that's the catharsis and the entertainment that we want. And so I have similar qualms about the ending of The Substance, the ending of Love Lies Bleeding, where it's like I do appreciate and like the catharsis of the endings that they want to provide, but kind of by design, or kind of it kind of necessitates taking a very nuanced setup, very nuanced observations of character, of theme, and kind of flatlines it to just be an emotional explosion in the end, an emotional release. But I really liked like most of the like 3/4 of this film much more than the ending. Personally, I think this ending is better suited to a dumber movie, and the first 3/4 play out really well in observing and layering on different kind of narratives about like our relationship to beauty, our addiction to our socially facing side, like narratives about addiction, narratives about kind of like social treatment of women and stuff, especially elderly women, and kind of layering all those on top of each other. So to have it have like a Carrie ending, like Carrie's a very, very different character from either Sue or Elizabeth Sparkle. So while I understand the desire to pay homage to that, and to pay homage to a whole raft of horror movies and other movies that Fargeat loves, I think it's thematically misplaced in the ending, personally. But really lovely performances by Demi Moore, by Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, yes, no. It's one of those kind of roles where it's like it's playing like a trope or a caricature, and so it's kind of dependent on like the individual actor's charisma or your relationship with them. This I didn't find that outstanding, but not to say it's bad, just it was purely functional within the narrative for me. I don't think that the ending was as like gruesome and crazy as other people may have suggested. Maybe I just listened to too many normies' opinions on how movies shape up. But for me, there's plenty of things that you'd already seen in other movies, like the fingernail spot. You see it in Dogs Don't Wear Pants. The tooth spot is in plenty of movies, but most recently I can think of like Society of the Snow, but that's an Old Boy too. And when you cut to a close-up, I get it's for emphasis and in order to do the actual special effects, but that cut, for me, subconsciously allows the audience breathing room as opposed to heightening the tension, because they've been trained to know that they're watching a special effect shot, whereas if you kept it in a medium and stuff, it would look scarier, like seeing that happen, that process happening on an actual actor's body. Obviously, you can't really do it with an actor because they actually have their teeth IRL, and if you want to show it off, you're going to end up using CGI, which would look bad, or you're going to use a special effect that may not look as real as it needs to. So I understand the reason for the cut. I'm just saying, like, in terms of filmic grammar, it allows the audience a little bit of breathing room. It's it's a little bit of a de-escalation. And nails, the ear spots referenced Reservoir Dogs, all of the stuff with the syringes. That's like Pulp Fiction. The explosion in the theater is Carrie and Akira and the Blob. Yeah, I didn't find it altogether too gory or too scary. If anything, it was more bombastic. Like by the end, it felt more like The Thing, but like the 2011 Thing more so than the 1982 Thing. Yeah, I'm surprised how many movies this ended up referencing. I think good for the most part, and with like little reservations on my part for other parts, but mostly I think this was an enjoyable movie. I think, how should I put it? Fargeat has like a good sense of tone and pace that feels kind of like a descendant of Tarantino or like a descendant of Martin Scorsese, and she has a kind of pronounced style that like demands an audience's attention without necessarily being too alienating, I suppose. Like Lanthimos is going for that tone, I think, these days as well. Not quite as like music video-ish, but I think this is like dazzling, this is bright, this is bombastic in a way that audiences can really glom onto if they can stomach the like horror elements of it, the like gore elements of it. I personally don't find it that gory, and maybe audiences will or have, but I think they've like come out in enough droves to say that they want this sort of stuff and they can stomach this sort of stuff. I'd say this is like on an even playing field with like 80s and 90s David Cronenberg, for instance, in terms of how squeamish you get watching it, but without like the tonal differences that some Cronenberg has that can be more alienating for an audience. This was, for the most part, a pretty accessible watch in terms of the story and the ways that the dual heroines kind of like relate to each other and relate with us as an audience. Yeah. That was a pleasant watch. I'm for a sophomore effort, I'm pleasantly surprised, and yeah, I always love to see a girl boss succeeding, I suppose. So, love that for Demi Moore, love that for Margaret Qualley, and love that for Coralie Fargeat. Let me know what you think of The Substance. Did you find it like, I don't know, spectacularly gory or whatever? Like The Sadness came out like 2-3 years ago. I guess I didn't really consider The Sadness that crazy either. I don't know. I can't stand like jump scares or whatever, but like gore effects and stuff, I'm mostly okay with. Yeah, let me know what you think. In the meantime, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies.